hear a little bit about where in the world you might be joining from. So I invite you to use our chat feature. And great, you guys are Zoom pros. So for anyone who's not familiar, there should be a little chat button on the bottom of your screen. And yeah, please let us know where you're coming from. I'm seeing such an amazing mix here. A lot of folks keeping you company. Peter in Germany. I see Austria, Miami, New York, Italy, other California folks, Michigan, Kazakhstan. Wow, UK, Illinois, Michigan. A lot of different cities being represented in Germany. That's awesome. Someone from Sao Paulo, Toronto, an amazing Barcelona, Greece, Milwaukee. Wow. Oh, how cool. What an amazing, amazing group we have. So international. Mexico, Mexico City, Boston. Wow. Okay. This is the magic to me of Zoom. So many people joining from so many different places, all in this one moment. Speaking of this moment, I know sometimes we're not only coming from different places, but different meetings, different things on our calendar. And I would love to invite Meg to lead a little bit of an arrival practice for us.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I feel the energy of everybody's presence. So welcome, super big welcome. And it's lovely having everyone from all over the world. And before I settle us, I'd love it if you'd like just to unmute yourself briefly. If you could unmute yourselves. And then if you would like to just say hello or good morning or good afternoon in your native language.
Hola.
Hello.
Good morning.
Guten Abend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Great, thank you so much. And then you can go ahead and mute yourself again, or Steph will help us with the muting. And to help us also,
Make you unmute.
oh, I got muted. So thank you all. And so once again, to help us arrive in this room that we're creating together, taking a moment to settle. So wherever you are, stopping what you're doing, and you can lower your eyes or close them if you like, whatever is comfortable. Or simply noticing what it feels like to pause, to fully arrive. If you're seated, feeling yourself seated on the chair, sensing the weight of your body. Feeling your feet supported by the ground below. And sensing your hands. And if you'd like, taking a deep, full breath in, and then a long breath out, just letting go of anything extra. Softening the face, the shoulders, allowing your attention to rest with the breath. And connecting with the question of what brings you here today? What are you curious about? What's the sense of possibility that draws you here? And then once again to close, Taking a full deep breath in and a long breath out. Gently opening your eyes when you're ready. If you'd like to move or stretch, you're welcome to do so. And coming back into our room together.
And we would love to know, how are you today? And instead of using the chat feature, actually for this, we're going to use a Mentimeter and get kind of a pulse check on the whole group. So Avery is going to put a link into chat. There it is. And please open just that one tab, not going into other distractions or email, but just opening that one tab and entering 2 words. How are you doing today? And all feelings are welcome here. So please just let us know how you are. And again, using that link that we put in chat to open Mentimeter. And
the Menti need to be on another slide, actually. It's the second slide is in the Menti active at the moment.
I'm sorry, Peter, can you?
The Menti is in what are you most curious to learn today? We need to go to the slide before. I can do it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Is it a different link? Sorry if I'm.
Or maybe I'm on the wrong link. Maybe I don't want to mess things up here.
Well, it must be on.
If I click on the link, I see the slide. The Menti is not on, at least for me, not on input. If I click on the link in the chat.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? In that case, let us just use the chat. And I see people are doing that already.
Very good.
I'm in the same situation. I don't have access to it either, just so you know.
Okay,
It's showing
good to
a
know.
slide with 4 choices.
All right, well, we will come back to that, Menti. And for now, thank you for working with us and using the chat. I see a lot of curiosity, calm, happy.
I have no chat function.
Have no chat function. It should be, you may need to open it. There should be a bottom bar in Zoom and the word chat, and you may need to open that window, and that will give you some chat functionality.
Being curious, happy, calm, interested, but have a lot on your plate, connected, tired and grateful. Yeah, often we have different emotions that come up at once. Hopeful and ready. Yeah, grateful and busy. So lots going on. Excited and happy, overwhelmed and hopeful. Lots of different things. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So welcome everybody, whatever you're bringing into our space today.
Yes, welcome everyone and all feelings and parts of us. So I just want to say a couple of words by way of introduction of why we're here, why the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute cares about scaling emotional intelligence and mindfulness through teacher training within organizations. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Search Inside Yourself program itself was born at Google, and it's this combination of mindfulness, our ability to pay attention on purpose, to work with the nature of our mind, our focus, attention in a certain way, to build our emotional intelligence, our ability to understand ourselves, to work well with others. And we weave in the neuroscience to really understand the physiological responses, what's kind of happening beneath the hood, so to speak. So we're taking this unique blend of these things. And we'd love to bring it into organizations to help employees, teams, and organizations really thrive, to build resilience, to build collaboration, a lot of things that are really needed right now. And thank you. Let me add some spotlights here so you can see all of us well. And I want to say a few words about our upcoming organizational teacher certification program. So when we talk about how do we actually bring these skills into organizations, we really love to do it through training teachers within organizations. We'll talk more about why that is. And we have this teacher certification program coming up this calendar year, which we're super excited about. The goal of this organizational teacher certification is to train, to teach and scale the Search Inside Yourself program within your organizations, to your colleagues, your coworkers, So we have done other teacher certifications in the past that are more open to teach to anyone. And I just wanted to really let you know that this one is a little more targeted and focused. And because of that, we're super excited to have partnered with Peter and his team at SAP to bring in that expertise really around how do you bring this into an organization and scale it into a significant initiative. A couple of other details I just want to mention about this certification program. It will be held entirely online via Zoom, minus the Menti snafus that we've had. We'll iron that out, of course. But I just want to mention it will be all online, so you're welcome to join from wherever you are. And we've been doing a number of different teacher trainings online, and we're so thrilled by how well they work. And this ability, as we've seen in this webinar, to really bring people together from around the world in one virtual place. It will be 6 months in duration, starting in July and going through December. We'll have 3 live Zoom sessions throughout that time in July, September, and December. So there'll be this live, highly interactive component, and then in between you'll be in small groups and doing individual work for learning and practice teaching. So just wanted to mention a few of those details. We're super excited about that. And of course, we're super excited that Meg and Peter will be teaching this. So I'd love to have each of you give a little bit more of an introduction. I love this combination of the two of you coming together to teach this program, because you come to this work from such different perspectives. It's part of the power of having the two of you together. So I'd love to turn it over to you to just share a little bit more about your background and how you got here. Why do you care about bringing mindfulness and emotional intelligence to organizations? And
Like,
Peter,
go ahead, Peter.
yeah, Peter, go ahead, kick us off.
Okay, so hello and welcome everybody from my end, from Berlin in Germany. And yeah, how do I got here? That's a good question. If one would have told me like 10, 15 years ago, I would have been way beyond my imagination on many levels. So first I discovered mindfulness myself, being a skeptic before, by training an industrial engineer, now more than 22 years, working with SAP, a big originally German-based business software company, and learning about the fruits of mindfulness and how it's helpful for my personal and my professional life. And then as a next step, since I'm mainly living in the San Francisco Bay Area in San Francisco, I started a grassroots within SAP in 2012 to bring it to the organization. Heard about Session Site Yourself, felt this could be a great program. Let's pilot it, and it became really, really big. I can talk more about this. Let's not go too much in detail. It became really to such a big success, and it grew within SAP, and that we have our own teacher base. We run a number of teacher trainings within SAP. Other companies came to us and said, this is somewhat is interesting what you're doing there. Can you help us? And so we created some best practice models, or a lot of them, and we want to give them to other organizations. And then we stuck our heads together with Silly. I mean, we did all the teacher trainings with them, and I did some with Max. So I'm very happy to partner with her. We are a known team, and it's fun working with her. The question was, how can we bring this knowledge we brought to SAP and to other organizations to a wider audience? And this is how we then together decided, let's create an organizational teacher training. And I'm very pleased to be able to share knowledge. That's my intention, to bring this to organization world and beyond, to society. And I'm very happy that so many people are joining us and interested in this. So these are my 15 cents on that, and I'm handing over to Meg.
Thank you, Peter. So a little bit about my background. Some time ago, I was on a track to become a university English professor, wanting to study literature. And then I was on track for that, but then I encountered Zen meditation. And it was so compelling that I ended up really focusing on that pretty much for the next 15 years. And so I lived in monasteries, Zen centers, did a lot of intensive meditation practice. And then at some point, about 10 or 12 years ago, I was interested in, what's happening out in the world, and how can these practices, apart from any religion or particular culture, really have an impact? And so I did coaching training. I started working and teaching mindfulness in corporations when it was still pretty new. And then I joined, I started teaching SIY at Google before the organization was created. And then when that was created, I was asked to join right away and sort of have been working with Silly ever since in various capacities. And from the very, very beginning, we started doing teacher trainings, and it's actually one of my favorite things. And as Peter said, we work together quite a bit. And so it's really fun to be here. Thank you.
And since the two of you have worked together and taught together many, many times, instead of asking you to kind of brag about yourselves, I'm curious to hear, what is one thing that you think the other person kind of brings in that you really appreciate? And Meg, how about you go first? What's something that you just love about working with Peter?
Yeah, I mean, what I often say is something, similar to what you said, Steph, that I think Peter and I complement each other really well, because he's coming from a tech business engineering background, and I'm coming more from the meditation, although I've also worked, with companies and leaders and such. And he's tall and I'm short, male and female, we kind of go together. But actually, as I was thinking more deeply, there's a real commitment to excellence that Peter has. And I think he feels so deeply how powerful and impactful and important this work is that he just throws his whole heart and soul into it and has very high standards. And that makes it really a joy to work with him.
Well said.
Thank you.
And Peter, how about you?
One of the many things I'm enjoying working with Meg is, we complement each other well. I feel the same way. We bring different perspectives, different energies. And what I really admire is her depth of practice and a mixture of having a very a good way of having rigor in her practice. It's something important she cares about. She's doing since many decades. You can feel that. You can feel what happens if somebody dedicates a big part of her life to having a deep practice, and a lot in Zen monasteries, as you shared before. And one can feel that. And then this other part, bringing this to the world, and bringing this to the world with lightness and joy and with humor. So having this depth and lightness at the same time, that's one thing I really enjoy working with her.
That's lovely, Peter. Thank you. Thank you both. So now that you've heard a little bit about Meg and Peter, we do want to hear from you about what are you most curious to learn today? Now that you have a little bit of a sense of their backgrounds, and we're going to try Menti again. If that doesn't work, we'll go back to chat. I just taught a webinar recently on self-compassion, so we can overcome this setback with an attitude of compassion and curiosity.
It's working now.
It's working now, great.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know, what are you most curious to learn today? And we have some options if you want to give us a little more detail in the chat. You're welcome to do that as well. And I do need to our results. It's working, but I'm not able to quite share the results yet.
There's the link for you in the chat, Steph.
Hey, Steph, Steve Gamlin here. I went in and I use Menti all the time for the work that I do with the webinars I host. First place is coming in at impact of SIY and how to measure it. Number 2 is stories and experiences on bringing SIY to organizations, and practical advice on scaling search inside yourself within my org is number 3.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
What we're missing is the results slide, right? People did put in the...
Yes, that's right. So thank you for reading that. And I'm just having a hard time advancing to the next slide in the Menti itself. So that's what is a little stuck here. So maybe Stephen, since you are so handy there, if we could just ask you to see, is there an update there? And I think
Update. I had to copy the Menti over to my account because
okay.
you shared the editable Menti link. If you
I
can,
see. That's why. Okay. Great. Well, in that case, we will go with what you just shared. Thank you for this team effort here. And I also see a number of comments in the chat about overcoming skepticism. I know that's something, Peter, you've had to do, how to get buy-in, get upper management curious. So this is wonderful. I think we have a lot of good fodder for our conversation here.
I think maybe, Stephen, maybe you can share your screen and then we can use your account that we can see the results and we can flip through the different sort of questions you have still.
sure. Screen share is disabled on my end.
You know, I think thank you very much, Florian and Stephen. I think in the interest of time, I'd love to actually just get to the conversation, but I appreciate the support and team effort here. It does take a village to to do this, and part of, I will just use that as a way to mention, part of what we do love about our teacher training is the community that comes together, and in particular for this organizational teacher certification, it will be a community of real internal champions that are coming together to really support each other in this work. So all of this kind of tip sharing and all of that is part of the community we have. I'm going to stop share for our discussion so we can all see you a little bit better as well. And I'd love to just start off with, you know, Peter, maybe hearing from you, especially given the changes we've seen with COVID, how do you think about kind of that fundamental question of how do you make the case for this? Has anything shifted for you in how you think about the importance of mindfulness and emotional intelligence in the workplace?
Yeah, it's twofold. So on the one hand, the importance has grown bigger. We have more requests. People notice, I mean, like for many people around the world, this is challenging times. And of course, this is also for many people within SAP. It's a very large organization. So we get more requests that people feel it's challenging to be on themselves in the home office or to have the family situation or what it is, and how we can support to mental health so that the our management is even more supportive and grateful that we have this program. Is one thing we can see. Yeah, and the other hand is a little bit that this virtual world is also a challenge to bring it to organizations. We feel it's a little easier to do this on site, but the demand is clearly higher, and also the understanding why this is important.
Yeah. And do you, and I maybe now that the program is established and given what you're describing, you probably don't get this quite anymore, but I know you did in the beginning, that this question of, oh, isn't this a little frivolous? Do we need to do this at work? How do you kind of handle some of that skepticism?
That's a big part. Yeah, thank you for pointing me to that question. It is really about overcoming skepticism and overcoming well, actually demystifying the program. So it's still one of the key things I learned in the beginning. So I was at one point and really, really excited about mindfulness and knew it's working. And I thought everybody around myself, and understanding that there will still be a lot of people that are skeptical, that feel like this is something esoteric, something religious. And so what really helps is to find the right language in your organization that fits to your organization, to bring in the science, to be very careful with any esoteric or any religious relations. And this is one of the things why the SIY program, the Session Site SF program, works so well within Google and also within SAP. And we have quite a similar workforce, similar people working at the organization, that it has a business language, that it has a lot of neuroscience, that it avoids any religious connections, especially if it's a program around the world. So you have so many different cultural contexts. And then when I think we come to this question, start with finding people that are interested and start creating a small pilot, start creating evidence, measuring data, showing it's fitting in your organization, would be another part. And before all of that, I think what really helps is that you build your own practice, and that you, as one who wants to bring it to an organization, come to a place where you come as a very first step to your own conviction. I believe this is really something powerful and helpful. The more you come from this, your own place of, I know this, I have experienced it, it's true for me, the more you can do this in a relaxed fashion. You don't have to become a missionary. That would be another thing not to do, so that you're not becoming too like overly enthusiastic. Everybody has to do it, knowing some people will never be interested, and that's totally fine. So in my experience, the more you're coming from a neutral and secure place, the skeptics get more curious if you don't want to oversell.
Yeah. Oh, I love that neutral and secure place with that faith that it's had an impact on you. And Meg, I know you've worked with a number of different leaders and organizations. Yeah, what's your experience here as well, both with convincing skeptics and making that business case?
I mean, there's so many. I like to think of, Search Inside Yourself. We say it's a leadership program, and we mean leadership quite broadly. So you may have a business card that says leader, or you may not, but wherever you are, you have influence. And I like to think of what we teach as basically foundational competencies for whatever you're doing, for your own work, for influencing your team, for influencing or leading your organization. And that, I think as the world becomes more complex, and also some of the challenges of working remotely as well, that these skills are needed more and more as we move into this. And to the point of bringing it into organizations, one thing I've noticed is 3 different levels in a sense. So you have maybe leadership level, top leadership, you have managers, you have individual contributors, and ideally you'd like all 3 on board, but you can start anywhere. And maybe it starts very grassroots, as it did in Peter's case with SAP, or maybe you have a high-level internal champion who gets it and will really support that, but also bringing managers along who realize that this is really important for teamwork. And generally, then I found it grows, and then people see that this is really helpful, important, and whole sort of subcultures can create the support of mindful practice.
I'm glad you said that, Meg, because that's definitely our experience at Silly, working with clients. And we do start anywhere, and all places are a great place to start, depending on the culture, the intention of the program, and that it can really land well at all those levels and support people in wherever they are in their leadership journey. And I think that really speaks in particular to the impact that the Search Inside Yourself program can have kind of at an individual level. And we've collected some wonderful results of the kind of the pre compared to post program impact. Maybe Avery, if you can put in the chat a link to that impact report. So we know that SIY can really help people reduce stress, increase focus, increase empathy, resilience, ability to listen, to work through difficult conversations. I'm curious also about any impact that you've seen that goes beyond the individual level to the team or even organizational level. Maybe Meg, we can start with you, and then Peter, I know you have some kind of data that SAP has collected there as well, but maybe just more anecdotal. Meg, what have you seen?
One thing that really stays with me is how the program really facilitates real conversations that people really want to connect in a real way in the workplace. And often the conditions don't really support that. But I remember teaching once, and we were doing, mindful conversation, mindful listening exercise, which we also do online, where one person has the chance to just speak and the other person just listens. And then you take turns and you say, how was that? It's very simple. But in this container, there's a space for people to actually be heard. And, after we finished the exercise, someone raised their hand and he said, this person and I have been in the same office for 10 years, like sitting kind of all next to each other almost. And in this 10-minute conversation, this is the most connected we've ever felt. And it's those small things. It's just shifting the lens a little bit, and then something can open up, and that has big ripple effects.
Yeah, that definitely connects to that concept of psychological safety on a team. People feeling really comfortable, like they can contribute their perspectives, that they'll be heard and understood. I think it's really key to kind of making sure a team is more than the sum of its parts. Yeah. Peter, what have you seen at SAP and your clients?
Well, I like what Meg just said, that it is seemingly simple practices, and they invite to a profound shift. And we see this again and again, that people come out of the training, and I love myself to teach. My time not always permits me to do so many classes, but I love it because you see that there's a shift happening, that we come back to ourselves, to a more natural, more human interaction, and to our shared humanity together. And so in some ways, to take a little bit of the business mask we think we have to wear away, and feel how powerful this is. And to answer the question of the data, so our data science team within SAP, they looked between 2016 and 2019 in a pile of data of participants, and after data cleansing, it's more than 7,200 participants. They looked and they compared with a control group, so with appropriate controls, and also did timeline analysis and run a battery of statistical tests. And this data science team shows that we have a significant increase in employee engagement. So people come, let me stay with the science. The engagement is higher. The leadership trust index is another thing we measure, is higher. People trust in their leadership. They trust also more in the whole line of leadership. That's a composite index we are measuring, and it's even higher, this result, when the leaders and the employees from the same organizational unit went through the class. Then the next one we could see, so this data science team did data mining. I could see that the absenteeism, so that unexcused missing times, are significantly going down. That people, the way how I translated this data is that people like to do more what they do. And so the beauty is that we know with the three indicators I mentioned, we know what they're worth per person. Of course, SAP is a quite data-driven organization, and we can even show that this is not only within SAP, the Assertion Cite Yourself program, since a number of years, the most popular program. So we have currently a wait list of 9,000 people. It's a little bit of a positive problem to have. And we have trained by now 13,000, and it's all voluntary. So we don't accept mandatory people that send to us. They have to want to be there. It's not only the most popular training, it's also one of the most impactful ones, where we can show we have a contribution to the financial impact of the organization. And that of course helps, but we also have thousands of anecdotal feedbacks that people say, this is really helpful. And I like how this does a shift in the organization. And while I'm talking about this, I want to add one more thing. What helped to make the program big is to bring it to the organization or to the employees as a gift, so that they that they don't get forced to do this, so only people that want to, and that they can do it if possible during their working time. And that's the feedback we're getting, that people feel, wow, the company is really doing something for me. And this has of course a good effect for both sides, and strengthening the engagement and the relation between the employee and the company.
Yeah. And Peter, there's a question in the chat about what exactly was measured financially. Can you speak more to, so how did you do that connection to the actual finances and ROI?
I try to speak about it as much as I'm allowed to.
Yes, fair.
So what we measured, or the data science team, not me, they were way better in statistics than I am, despite my engineering background. They measured, they looked on the one hand on the annual employee survey. And they looked at people on the survey that attended the SIY class, and then compared the next year and the year after, and looked at the control with people that haven't attended the survey. And there they could see, okay, there was a different level in employee engagement. And we know from an audit from our audit company from 2016 that 1% in employee engagement throughout the whole organization, throughout all 100,000 employees, is worth between 60 and 90 million euro. So that's a calculation, and with that we can break it down to the single person, and we know, okay, we have a certain percentage of increasement, and with that we have a monetary tag on that. And there is I have to look up the link. There's an article in Reuters where this is a little deeper specified. If you look at the business case of mindfulness SAP and on Reuters, you find it, or also actually it's on our landing page. So sap.com/mindfulness. If you go there, there's also there's a little bit more of the data behind.
Yeah.
I hope this answers the question a little more. I would like to say one more thing on the business case. It is a bit in the soft area. I think it's always underlining and giving a base that this is supportive. It is not as hard as if you do a double-blind study, right? So it's more giving an indication. We know there's so much science out that shows mindfulness has an effect, and the way how we look at it is we see, yes, we can prove the employees with an SAP are average humans, and it has an effect on them too. This is how I would like to put it. If you to the ones that want to create an own business case, and we will talk more about this. That's part of what we do in the organizational teacher training. That we have some more time to go in some of the details.
Yes, Peter. One of my favorite stories from you, I think you shared that one of the people on that data analytics team had not gone through SIY, but he was looking at the data. And do you want to share about his?
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, this is actually our chief data scientist, and he was like, yeah, this mindfulness thing. He looked at the data and he was like, I have to go to this class. There must be something in. So he believes in the data, and the data was showing him there's something happening with thousands of people.
Yeah.
I love that. If I could just add, I mean, I feel like the measurements and being able to pull in the science, all of this has been really, really helpful. And it's a big gateway for a lot of people who would say, you know, I'm not going to take this seriously, maybe like the data scientist. And that's sort of like oh, actually, this is okay to at least check out. And then people go from there, you know, and it's so much more than any particular measurement or study is going to highlight or really, really paint a picture of. But it's one way, it's one angle. And sometimes it's a skillful way that really speaks to people.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say as well. Thank you, Meg, to highlight this or to underline this. And it is one language corporations understand, the science and the monetary value. And again, to the question how to bring it to an organization, find the first thing you need to do if you want to champion it, if you want to bring it to your organization, is to really listen. Where are particular things in the organization, particular issues that need to be improved? So that you don't come with a cookie cutter approach. Okay, mindfulness, everybody needs to do it. We want to do it too, but rather see what is in our organization, what's our specific story, why this is helpful. Because an organization has an organizational goal, and if you can make a case that this practice helps support the goal, then you are in the right direction of the conversation. And the monetary value could be one, and there can be others depending on what field you're in. There are many others actually.
Yeah, I think that's such a helpful connection to make. And that goal right now, you know, given COVID, could be kind of addressing something really painful and stressful. We're seeing lots of mental health challenges, you know, a lot of distraction, lack of engagement, or it could also be something really positive, right? Lots of organizations really want to attract and retain talent, be an employer of choice, have a really, you know, wonderful culture. So lots of different things that organizations might care about.
I want to say one more thing. Of course, mental health is really a growing issue in corporate world, as we can see in many studies. And yet I still would be careful, or we are careful within the way how we advertise a program within SAP, that is not a mental health program. It's not a health improvement program, because with that, you're tying it to a deficiency. And
Mhm.
people that feel like, oh, well, I don't have a health problem, we wouldn't be attracted to it. So we placed it, or mental wellness. Yeah, we placed it not. We placed it actually in leadership development and talent development, from an angle of at a very early stage when you're still in when you still, even when you still feel very healthy, that you can grow more in your potential. And of course, it creates an organizational culture that supports mental well-being.
Mhm.
This is how
Yeah.
we're framing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think that's one of the pieces for internal champions to figure out is where is that proper home? Because certainly at Google, it was more as a well-being program. I agree. It's not exactly mental health. It's not psychology, but depending on the exact issue or challenge, SIY can have more of that leadership development home, more of a well-being home, or something else. It could be its own initiative. Yeah. Meg, anything that you're seeing?
No, that sounds good. I think these are important distinctions. So, yeah,
yes. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the teacher training piece of this and why we really love. So we've talked generally about the program and bringing mindfulness and emotional intelligence into organizations and the impact it can have. And of course, one of the ways we like to do that is by training teachers. And that's the goal of the organizational teacher certification program. There's been at least just a little bit of research around this idea that somebody who really speaks that internal language, I'm thinking in particular of a study that was done in the military. So looking at expert mindfulness facilitators compared to military personnel. And it was actually the military personnel that were kind of recently trained to teach mindfulness had a little bit of a better impact and engagement. And we can speculate about, how they were able to maybe tailor the language of the program, make exact connections to people's daily lives. But it is that kind of ethos, I think, that we love to develop these internal teachers. And you both have done different teacher trainings in lots of different contexts. So can you speak to that, the value of that? Yeah.
I'd love to speak to that. So as I said, from the very beginning with Silly, we started doing teacher trainings and then people would come in for them. And then there was this idea of doing the internal teacher trainings. And at first, I actually was quite skeptical. I thought, we've done all this mindfulness training and the fact we're going to be teaching people and were they able to get it and da-da-da. And I turned 180 degrees that just as you were saying, Steph, there's something about, having someone who has a strong background coming in to lead the program or maybe co-teach, but there's something about someone who knows the culture, knows the language, in a way that I'll never be able to speak to any particular company the way someone internal to that company can. And there's also a lot of credibility that someone in the group will be looking up and seeing you maybe and like, oh, wow, they care about this. And they actually took the effort to get up there and be teaching us. I'm gonna pay attention. And then also, with SAP, Google, other places, now that we've been doing this several years, we have cohorts of mentors who've gone through different years, and they're so dedicated that they really want to help other people kind of come up and be teachers as well. So it really takes root like a native plant and starts to grow in that culture, which is fun.
That's great. And I see a chat from Stephen saying culture mirroring is paramount to adoption. I love that. Culture mirroring is such a great phrase. Peter, what would you like to add here?
I can just underline it. I guess this is really one of the key success factors. I mean, as I said, we have now trained within SAP more than 13,000 people. We have a waitlist of 9,000, and this is because we created in this group of internal teachers. We're running at the moment our 4th internal teacher training. So by March, we will have then in total more than 60 internal trainers. And it's amazing to see even the first wave of trainings we did within SAP, which was in 2014, half of the trainers are still very active. And I know skeptics say, well, it's an effortful program and people do this for a year and then they're off. This is not the truth we're seeing within our organization. And then other organizations came also asked, can you help bring what you did within SAP to other organizations? And I was wondering, were we just lucky that SAP has a very open and innovative culture, and then we could see, no, actually it works in other organizations as well. So, and this is why I'm very, in particular, excited to help with this organizational teacher training. And maybe just to illustrate one little example. So so one of our trainers, she is a manager in controlling, and so it's one of the countless examples. And when she talks about the stop, breathe, notice, reflect, respond, so how do you work with stressful moments, and in a particular moment in her work when something was really wrong in a very high stake meeting, and when she then ties how mindfulness helps her to deal better in a real business context in controlling with this, you can see people in the, as I co-taught with her, you can see people in the audience like, now I get it where this is from. As Max said earlier, the credibility is really higher. And on top of that, if you create this group of people, you have a network of multiplier. You bring really the knowledge in your organization. And so based on our trainers, we also have now a whole network of ambassadors, of people that on top of that support. So we have more than 85 ambassadors around the world. And the trainers connecting with this community. So you build your own body of teachers and of growing this in the organization. And that's another thing I'm excited to speak about in the organizational teacher training. So what are governance structures? What works? What things I would avoid in building such a business program? I would look at it as a business program, and of course, in my deep heart, looking at the deep integrity of it, but seeing how do I feel about it and how do I speak about it, and learn about what works.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I'd love to ask just a couple more questions and then we'll take some hands from the audience as well. So one is just, if you had to give like one piece of advice to someone sitting on this webinar that it's kind of early stages, they're just trying to start making the business case, they want to grow mindfulness and emotional intelligence and kind of scale it in their organization. What's one thing they should know that maybe we haven't mentioned yet from either of you?
I'm going to share something that actually Peter tells me he started with, which is just start talking to people. And you may find that there are more people than you think who actually have a practice already or are really interested in this. And you start to build a network of support. That's what I would say.
Thank you for quoting me. And I repeat myself, but it's one of the most important messages of the training: build your own practice and come from that place. The more you come from this inner knowledge, there's something shifting. I know that. The more you transmit this knowledge when you talk then to other people. And find followers, find like-minded people. Be persistent, be patient. It might take a while. Don't get discouraged, and look with organizational awareness which door is try to open, which door might be already open. Also, don't, as I said, don't oversell. Yeah, and just start. I just read in the chat. That's
yes. And on that note of having your own personal practice, I'd love to just ask each of you something about your own practice, something either that has been really meaningful to you, or maybe something like an unmindful moment that you had recently where your initial reaction wasn't what you wanted, and how practice helped you kind of course correct.
I'll just say an unmindful moment, or maybe it was a mindful moment, but once I was teaching and someone asked kind of a challenging question in the audience after something I just presented, and I could feel myself go, you know, that trigger moment, and I stopped myself. And I realized that, oh yeah, I need to take a breath myself, make sure I'm settled and staying curious and not defensive, and ask more. Oh, how was, tell me more, you know, how was that for you? And of course that's useful in teaching, but it's useful in all kinds of experiences. And for practice, I'll say that actually almost every meeting I have now on Zoom, whether it's SIY related or not, we start with a moment to arrive and kind of connecting with our intention, and then usually also close consciously. And it just makes such a difference in communication. So I want to share that.
Thank you, Meg. I love that. And yeah, mindfulness doesn't make us into perfect people, but that ability to recover more quickly, I think, is really paramount. Yeah. Peter, how about you? Something about your personal practice.
Well, I have a dedicated practice. I sit every morning and I journal. And one of the things I really learned with Such and Such Yourself is this integrated practice, the still practice. And as Meg shared, I start every meeting with a minute to arrive, with a quick check-in. So, and this is especially powerful in the virtual meetings, that because you don't have this walk to the coffee machine and a little chit chat. So we built this in, and there's even science that shows that the more you are connected, the less you're at risk to burn out. And as you said, mindfulness doesn't make you a sage. I think in my personal experience, I'm becoming more aware of my self-awareness rises. I'm becoming more aware when I'm getting irritated. Most of the time I can catch myself a little earlier. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Then I can be more compassionate with myself and with others when I ask for an apology. So I think it helps to improve. It helps to become less reactive and to become more thoughtful little by little.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to take some questions from our audience. So I'd love to encourage you to raise your Zoom hand. On the bottom bar, you should see a little icon that says reactions, and then an option to raise your hand. That's at least in the most recent version of Zoom. If it's an older version of Zoom, it might be in your participant window, but feel free to find that raise hand icon, and we'll take a couple of comments in our last questions for Meg and Peter in our last few minutes. And I also just want to say we've been recording this webinar. I'll follow up and share the recording as well as more details about the organizational teacher training itself. We have a great applicant guide that really goes through all of the details of the program itself. And Patty, I see your hand. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, welcome.
Well, it's wonderful. I love this organization, and I have been practicing for around 30 years, mindfulness, and I come from Mexico. I see that in my country of origin. I have both countries as my loving countries, but people are very open to this kind of practices, language, emotional intelligence, connection, and trying to bring these concepts to mindfulness. I usually need to go through my strategic and marketing door, and then people start seeing the consequences of, like, what are you doing? Why is it that meeting went this way and not that way? And people start getting interested. But I would love to bring this for this to be my main, it's what I love the most. It's what's make the difference in my life. How do you suggest I approach clients with, without sounding wishy-washy or like it's an emotional thing. No, this makes business sense. This makes sense in every area of our lives. So anyway, I would love to hear a little bit of how to land that to the business strategy.
Okay, I can answer that. Try to give an answer. Many of the points we already shared, to really listen to whom are you talking, and to see what is their reality, what is not your reality in language, and knowing this is so important to me, but to see what are they interested in. It might be stress reduction, it might be innovation, it might be in the organization less work-related injuries, to find a doorway why these practices could be helpful, and then find a way to so basically to make the skeptics curious and give them an own experience with the individual or with the organization in a pilot, and show there's something shifting, and create this business case that it has a business value supporting the organization.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
And let's go to Aubrey. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here with you today and listening to your expertise. I'm really intrigued by what Peter shared earlier about understanding more about what governance structure works and what doesn't work. I wonder if you don't mind just sharing with us the wisdom that you have in this regard.
Absolutely. What we can see within our organization since many years that it becomes an increasingly highly sought after topic, and many people are really enthusiastic about it. And some people have an own deep practice and they understand. Some people have just attended maybe a very short experience and feel they have understood all about mindfulness. So one of the governance the most important things is that we look closely who do we invite to become parts of. We created like safe container who is part of our we call it the global mindfulness practice, that they talk about mindfulness in a way that we feel it's representing what we're doing, that they know within SAP it is secular, we keep religion out, it is it's non-esoteric, we have a specific language to talk about it, we avoid certain symbols, we don't have cross-legged people in a lotus. So to really have a distinction, it's a business program, and to when we look for people that understand from their heart what this is about, and that they also have the mind to talk about it in a skillful way, that it's seen as a business program. And it's nothing against spirituality. I myself consider myself spiritual, but I don't speak like this in the organization to attract the skeptics. The people that are already like, I know this is great, you have won them, but you want to get the people curious at least, that feel like I'm not sure if this is what the thing is about, and so that's what the governance structures are for, to if you have a wider body of people working in this, that you have certain rules how to do this, like you would run any other business program. Just in respect of the time, I give a rather short answer. I hope this is a little helpful.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more to say, but that's a wonderful start. And I also just saw a question in the chat asking, is this really more for corporate environments or nonprofits? And I would say it's workplace oriented, but we definitely work with a range of organizations, corporations, governments, local governments, federal governments, whole countries in some instances, as well as nonprofits. So yeah, please do consider, as well as a range of really quite varied sectors. So even though, you know, we kind of come out of the tech sector, SAP obviously is a technology company, we do work with a wide range of different organizations as well. So I know there are a number of other hands, but I'm just seeing the time and I want to respect everybody's time. And as Meg mentioned, have a little bit of a moment for a closure. So again, we'll be sharing information. I'll share more details about the program itself as a follow-up by email. And please feel free to also reach out if you didn't get your questions answered today. You can go to the SILI website. Avery put the link in the chat for more information about the teacher training, and there's a contact us there as well.
Just say one more sentence, Steph.
Please,
just,
yeah.
I've also found that can be a profound path for personal development, for your own growing and depth and the community. So you're going to learn a lot, as well as what you bring into the organization where you are.
Yes, and I will vouch for that, having gone through the teacher training a couple of years ago, already having been at SILI for a couple of years. It was still a really profound experience.
And we hear the same from many of our teacher trainees, that when many of them are leaders within the organization, they say this is the greatest program they've done in their whole career. So it is, yeah.
Yes, so we hope you'll consider joining us for this program, for other programs. We'll close here to respect everybody's time. Maybe we can close by just taking a breath together. So inviting you to just take in whatever you would like, maybe a little bit of inspiration or knowledge, any takeaway you want to take from this webinar. And then on the exhale, just letting everything else go. Being here in your body. I'm wishing you a wonderful transition to whatever is next for you. Thank you again so much for spending your time this hour with all of us. Really nice to see faces and questions in the chat, and hope to have more engagement with you in the near future. So thank you all. We can unmute everybody. And if you'd like to just say a goodbye, You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Very much.
Peace out.
Bye. Ciao.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Bye.
day,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a fine day.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Meg and Peter, for being here.
Thank you,
All
Steph.
right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.